Alright guys, this is my 7th time trying to do this video, so uh, every time I try to do this video, normally this is a lesson that we would do together in class with the ladybug, and I feel like an idiot trying to do this, and we have people driving up and down the road, and my dog starts barking violently at them, so just all sorts of things. Then I find myself rambling on, kind of like I'm doing right now. So, today is May the 5th. If you have not gotten a grade recovery packet from the internet, printed it off at home, today is the first day that you can start picking them up from the school. If I talk to your parents or your parents messaged me, I put your name in a Word document and sent it to the principal, so your packet should already be available to be picked up. If I haven't talked to your parents, I don't know what other teachers were doing, but you just call the school, say, hey, I'm coming up there to pick up grade recovery packets for my student, whatever subjects they're coming up to pick up. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to put them in an envelope and put them outside on the bench outside the office, so you don't even have to go inside. That's my understanding. Unless you recently moved into the area, and I know I have a couple of students who have, I don't think anybody has an A letter grade average in my class. So this is an opportunity for you to raise your letter grade by 1. And you should take it. 5th grade ELA is difficult. I know we have written essays and done reading comprehension on texts that were difficult. It's hard because it's a middle school ELA and it's getting you ready for the rest of middle school all the way into early high school. It's a tough subject at this grade level. So take this opportunity to do the packets. The ELA packet is, I'm just going to say I don't understand it, why they chose this particular packet. I don't know if someone sent it to them or if it was put together for them. They certainly did not talk. I cannot imagine they talked to a 5th grade ELA teacher because the assignments just don't make sense for what we tend to work on. It's all from the iReady workbooks, those big green iReady workbooks that we have in class. But I just can't understand of all the assignments to choose from why they put this packet together. Maybe the iReady people did it. Maybe in other states this reflects the work they do. I don't know. But it's what we have available. It's what we're going to work on together. So I'm going to do the Homographs section with you now. You don't have to follow along. You can do it all and turn it in. If you don't have the packet, but you're going to have the packet and you want us to do it together, don't continue watching this video. Just stop and then start it over when you have the packet. Okay, so this section on homographs, this is from the very end of the iReady workbook. Normally what we do is we do all the lessons right up to LEAP, and then we have the section on grammar at the end. That's supposed to be a review of 3rd and 4th grade skills, and we sometimes do it. I've done it one year we didn't even get to it. It's just supposed to be review. So if it's review, great. If it's not, then we'll go over it together. So it's page 11 in your packet. Homographs. So that's a word that you can break down. So I'm even just like, I know it's confusing because we don't have the ladybug, and I wish I did so you could see what I'm writing. So I'm gonna kind of talk you through it. So this is what I would do in class if I were teaching this and I had the ladybug and you had your workbooks and I had my workbook. Okay, so I go up. It says lesson 21, homographs. I'm gonna draw a line under the word homo, H-O-M-O, and I'm going to circle the word graphs. So homo means same, graph means to write, and I'm writing those things down. So a homograph means that something is written the same way. We've talked in class a little bit about homonyms, but homograph would be something that is written. It's different words. It's not the same word. Different words written the same way. And sometimes they're pronounced differently and sometimes they're not, but they have different meanings. And I was trying to write down a list of homographs. We had a lot of homographs in the Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe unit because that book is from, remember, I think it's from the year it was written in the late 40s and it was published in 1950. So, I just realized that would be so 70 years ago the Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe was published. So they used a lot of older words some of which we use words with the same spelling today but different meanings. And I was looking at some. I wrote down a couple of homographs. One was the word buffet. We had that word as a vocabulary word. Buffet is what a lot of students saw. They said, "Oh, a buffet. My family likes to go to a buffet. It's where you get all different kinds of food." That would be what a buffet is, but the same spelling, buffet. That was a vocabulary word, buffet, which means to fight or to oppose, to stop somebody from doing something. And we had that vocabulary word. Another word would be the word a lot of times we looked up, we said, oh, entrance. We know what an entrance is. It's the doorway. It's how you go in somewhere. We have the entrance to the classroom, the entrance to your house. It's the doorway, right? Well, we had the word spelled the same way, entrance, entrance. To entrance someone. It's kind of like put a spell over. It's mystical. It's what happened to Edmund from The White Witch. We also had the word. This is one that I know it's a homograph, but if I'm not watching, when I'm reading something, I misdo it all the time, and that's the word that's spelled Lead. That can be to lead. Like he's the leader. He leads. Or she leads, or we also have the type of pencils we use in class, Lead, lead pencils. It's a material. Okay, so we have these words, and the most common one, I would say, would be read, to read, or you could also say I read, which is past tense. And people say, well, it's the same thing, but the tenses are different. That's also a homograph. Okay, so they give us an example at the top of the lesson on page 11. They have the word wind, which I'd probably look at and just say wind. It says the word wind is a homograph. A brisk wind blew, so I buttoned my coat. Well, what's wind mean there? Obviously, we know what wind is. It's like when it's like a rush of air that comes over us. But then the next sentence says, then I began to wind my way down the hill to the village. Well, wind and wind are two different words, but they're spelled the same. That's why they're homographs. Then they give you an example of dictionary entries for the words wind and wind that you can look at, because a dictionary is based off of spelling. So when you're looking, you would say, oh, well, wind, I'm looking that word up. Well, which one are you looking? Are you looking at wind or are you looking at wind? Well, they have those there, and then you would find the definition, and you would know based off the sentence. This is where we go back to context clues. You would know which is the correct word. I am not a person who recommends using the internet to look things up all the time. I'm not a person who says, oh, just look it up in Google. I think that kind of can make us lazy, but I will tell you, I'm a big fan of using Google for looking up the meaning of a word. When you have Google, if you come across a word you don't know the meaning of, if you go to Google, type in that word and then the word meaning, up will pop dictionary entries, and they will have definitions, they will have synonyms and antonyms, and they usually, if it's an English word, they will usually have a little sound button, and that's what I use it for a lot. I'll come across a word that I can figure out the meaning of, but I don't know how to say it. I teach 5th grade English. I teach you. I live in Louisiana. There's a lot of words that in my everyday life I don't use, and so sometimes I don't know how to say them. And I even come across words, and you will do this the rest of your life. This is a life skill. It's not a 5th grade skill. It's a life skill. You will come across words you don't know the meaning of. And when that happens, and it's okay, what you need to do is you need to look up that word. My father does this. My father is he's in his early 60s. He still comes across words he doesn't know the meaning of. He'll look them up in a dictionary. I look mine up on Google, but I use Google Dictionary. You're always going to have this. It's a skill. You're always going to be learning new words. You're always going to be learning new definitions. You're always going to be learning about words that maybe you know the definition of, but you don't know how to pronounce them. And so always be looking up words you don't know the meaning of. If you can't figure out the meaning, it don't mean you're going to stop every single time, but when you come across a word and you're like, I wonder about that word, look it up. Okay, so they have a guided practice. on page 11, and it's a little paragraph, and they have homographs. And what they wanted us to do, if we were in class, what we would do is I would have you with partners. You would read this together, and you would try to come up with definitions. We didn't have a set of class dictionaries, so probably what we would have done is probably tried to figure out, based off the context clues, the meaning of these words. Okay, so it says, the village was a perfect place to loaf for a few hours. I bought a fresh loaf of bread at a bakery near the beach. A dove was eating crumbs on the sidewalk. Across the street, a seagull dove for food as I watched. Then I bought a present for my mom at a store. I planned to present it to her tonight at dinner. An old wound in my leg began to ache, so I wound my way slowly along the streets. So a lot of homographs there. Sometimes the words are pronounced the same, sometimes they're not. But remember, these are different words. They're written the same, but they're not the same word. Okay, so the village was a perfect place to loaf for a few hours. Well, what would that word be? In fact, I'm going to show you. I have my phone here. So I go to Google. I type in the word loaf, meaning, and up comes various dictionary meanings. So it says it can be a type of bread that is shaped together. Okay, would that make sense for this? Nope. So then I look down, okay, what are some other meanings? To pass one's time away, or to be idle, to just sit there. I think we had idle, I-D-L-E, as a vocabulary word earlier in the year. So that would be, so I could say the village was a perfect place to loaf for a few hours. I can write around to be idle, I-D-L-E. Or if I want to put it in my own words, I could say to hang around. So I'm going to write hang around. And I know this sucks because I don't have the ladybug. Normally you would see the work that I'm doing. Maybe I'll take a picture and post it. I bought a fresh loaf of bread at a bakery near the beach. Well, I looked up that's a shape that bread is put in. It could be a loaf. I could also put it in my own words. I could say, well, what's a loaf of bread? It's like a chunk of bread shaped together. So I'm going to put that, a chunk, C-H-U-N-K / shape. So a chunk or a shape of bread at a bakery near the beach. Okay, a dove was eating crumbs on the sidewalk. Well, I assume that everyone knows what a dove is. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe that'd be something you have to look up. A dove was, but okay, let's look at the context clues. A dove was eating crumbs on the sidewalk. Something eating crumbs on the sidewalk. Well, what tends to eat crumbs on the sidewalk? Where are we at? We're at the beach. So what would probably kind of come down and eat crumbs? It'd be a type of bird. So a dove, I'm just going to put bird, B-I-R-D, above that. Was eating crumbs on the sidewalk. Across the street, a seagull, which is also a type of bird, dove for food as I watched. Well, this is where, if we know our parts of speech, I can tell that this is a verb. To dove, they dove. And then I start thinking, where have I heard that word? I think of like army movies where someone's telling their story and they said we dove for cover. It's they jump down, they take cover. So a seagull dove. Think about what happens when you're on, if we change the tense, to dive. If I'm on a diving board, what does that mean? It means to jump down, to swoop down. Well, I'm not going to say jump down because it's a bird. So I might say to move quickly downward. D-O-W-N-W-A-R-D, downward. As I watched. Then I bought a present for my mom at a store. You know what that is. It's a gift. G-I-F-T, a gift. I plan to present it. Okay, now we're having, what's that mean? I plan to present it to her tonight at dinner. Okay, to do something. So I'm going to present it to you. What does that mean? I would say give, G-I-V-E, to give it to her tonight at dinner. An old wound in my leg began to ache. An old wound in my leg. Okay, so you could look that word up, or you could look, okay, an old wound in my leg. I think a lot of us would know what that is. A wound could be a place of pain. That's where you've gotten hurt before. So how would I put this in my own words? An old wound. I would say it's a spot where you've been hurt. Spot where someone was hurt. And my leg began to ache. So I wound my way slowly along the streets. So wound my way. Okay, think about things that would also, if I go up at the top and I see the word wind. So it just has to do with the tense. Wind, you wind your way. I wound my way. Think about what's happening. If I wind something, kind of go. So I wound my way slowly along the streets. So I'm thinking of, I can kind of see the movement. I wound my way to move in a circle. That's what I'm thinking, a circle. So I don't think of it as straight. So if I have windy streets, that means it's not straight. If I go straight, then I wouldn't use that particular word. But remember, the wound in his leg begins to ache, so he wounds. It's kind of shaky. It's not particularly straight. When people talk about windy streets in America, the city that usually comes to mind is San Francisco, because it's just everything is just, it's a wound. It's not particularly straight. All right, I know that was awkward, but best we can do with the technology we have available. All right, now we go to page 12. For numbers 1 through 5, choose the correct meaning of the underlined word as is used in the sentence. I wandered down to the port to watch cargoes being unloaded from boats. So port. Well, would the port be A, a harbor? Would it be B, the left on a ship, port side? C, a valve or opening that lets liquid out? Or D, a person's manner or bearing, how you port yourself, how you carry yourself. I wandered down to the port to watch cargoes being unloaded from the boats. Well, it would be the harbor, A. Question 2, your ship looks sound, I said to a fisherman. Would it be A, sound meaning noise, B, sound in good shape, C, sound a long wide body of water, or D, sound to measure how deep water is? Your ship looks sound. B, in good shape. 3, it has to be, he said. Tomorrow we're bound for the fishing lanes. Bound, would it be A, bound to leap or jump forward? B, bound, border. We have out of bounds. C, bound, tide. Or D, bound, on the way to a particular place. And just like this doesn't always work, but just like we've talked about where you have in the ReadWorks packets or the LEAP packets, we would say, okay, well, just put those definitions in and see which makes sense. It would be D, on your way to a particular place. Tomorrow we're on our way to a particular place for the fishing lanes. 4, high winds and fierce storms are sure to batter us on the open seas, he continued. Would that be A, batter, to hit or pound? B, batter, a player at bat? C, batter, a liquid mixture, often of flour, eggs, and milk. That's what you use to make a cake. D, batter, sloping structure. Well, high winds and fierce storms are sure to batter us on the open seas. I think of like going back and forth, batter. So that would be to hit or pound, A. 5, fortunately, this is one of those words that when I come across, I usually mispronounce it. Fortunately, our bow is sturdy and true. He finished. I see that word, I think bow. That's a homograph. A bow like bow and arrow, or a bow that you tie onto something. That word is bow, B-O-W. So would that be bow, to bend the head or upper body in greeting? Bow, to be pushed over with age or pressure? Bow, in front of a ship's hull? Or bow, a weapon for shooting arrows? And so this one is C, the front of a ship's hull. Okay, so that's our lesson on homographs. I apologize for how awkward that went. When we get into the poetry, we'll try to make it less awkward. I have no promises or guarantees of that. Hope you guys are doing well. Please do this packet. Get it complete. Make sure your name is on it and whoever your homeroom teacher is. So that way, when it's turned into the office, you'll get credit and you'll get to raise a letter grade. Hope you guys are doing well. Bye.